Moving exactly a decade on from our previous outing, looking back at the 83-84 campaign, we move forward to the 1993-94 vintage. In the summer of 1993, United were defending Premier League champions, and were making their first outing in the latest version of the European Cup, now the Champions League, for the first time since the 1968-69 season. And after the heartbreaking disappointment of the 1991-92 title loss to Leeds, the focus in that season was all about finally regaining the championship. But now, with that firmly under his belt, Fergie wanted to broaden his horizons. The summer of 1993 only saw one actual signing, the arrival of 22-year-old Roy Keane, who joined for an English record fee of £3.75 million. The Irishman, who came from Clough's Forest, was a long-term replacement for skipper Brian Robson, who was playing fewer and fewer games, now in his 37th year. There were, however, a couple of interesting trainees taken on. A certain Philip Neville, part of the class of '92, joined his brother Gary, and Michael Clegg also signed up. With such a solid lineup, there was little discontent amongst the Old Trafford faithful that there wasn't enough strengthening of the side, as there certainly would be today. Can you imagine us buying one player, even off the back of a title-winning side, and there not being swathes of abusive social media armchair experts? On the way out, there was only two departures in the summer. One of Fergie's fledglings, Russell Beardsmore, was let go on a free and signed for Bournemouth. Young keeper Ian Wilkinson, with just one appearance to his name, also departed, this time to Stockport County. United fans were so buoyant about their first title win in 26 years, there was no real pressure on the boss. He could do no wrong. But resting on his laurels wasn't Fergie's way. His ultimate target was to defend the championship won the previous season and have his first crack at the Champions League. United were marginal favourites to win the league, but there was backing for traditional rivals Liverpool, Arsenal and Leeds to wrest the title back from Manchester. There seems like rule changes or the modernisation, good or bad, of the beautiful game every season. Here are the ones for the 1993-94 version, plus some in the ticker tape feed at the bottom. This was the first year that the FA Premier League and FA Cup had squad numbers. Following on from that, United would be afforded gold Premier League lions on their sleeves to signify that they were the reigning champions. All other sides would have the regular blue lions. From this season, 3 subs could be named. One had to be a keeper, but only 2 could be used in a game. There were no transfer windows nor any kind of technology to assist referees, and non-UK based players was still uncommon. And finally, Carling Breweries began its sponsorship of the Premier League, which now would be known as the FA Carling Premiership. There were still 22 top-flight clubs. The football season opener was the Charity Shield between League champions United and Cup winners Arsenal. We won the trophy on penalties after Sparky's volleyed opener, and the game ended in 1-1. On to the league, and we kicked off this campaign with a tricky match at Norwich. However, we won well, 2-0. Giggs and Robson scoring the goals. Roy Keane grabbed a brace on his Old Trafford debut in a 3-0 victory over the Blades before 2 points were dropped at home to Newcastle. There was a really memorable midweek match against last season's runners-up Aston Villa at Villa Park, where we debuted our innovative black kit. Sharpie scored a brace as we won 2-1. That put us top of the league. We would not lose that position for the rest of the season. The final game of the month, a solid convincing 3-1 win over Southampton, consolidated that lead. That top of the table finishing spot for August earned Fergie the Manager of the Month award. Remarkably, it would be the only one he'd get all season. Into September, it was more of the same as we won 3 out of 4 Premier League matches. A comfortable victory over West Ham was then followed by a poor result at Stamford Bridge, as Gavin Peacock's only goal of the game recorded our first defeat of the campaign, although the highlight was this lob from Eric. We did make amends against Arsenal at Old Trafford with a superb Cantona free kick, claiming all 3 points, giving us a 3 points lead at the top over the Gunners. A nervy 4-2 win at home over new boy Swindon Town maintained that gap over the Londoners as we moved into autumn. 2 cup competitions started in September. My birthday was spoilt on the 22nd when we lost to Stoke in the second round, first leg. However, we'd have the return leg in early October to put it right. The Champions League required 2 knockout rounds before the group stage. We got lucky with Hungarian side Kispert Honvéd. Another keen brace along with Cantona gave us a solid 3-2 win thanks to away goals being still a thing. The return leg on the penultimate day of the month, with a brace from Bruce this time in a 2-1 win, confirmed our advancement with a 5-3 aggregate scoreline. October was a perfect month in the league for us, winning 4 out of 4. Sheffield Wednesday, who were nothing short of a pain in the behind in recent seasons, were dispatched 3-2 on their own turf. Then there was a fine win over Spurs at Old Trafford, with Keane and Sharp doing the damage. And it was Sharp again with the winner as he produced this sublime volley against Neville Southall at Goodison Park. The month finished off with yet another narrow victory, 2-1 over QPR at home. This meant we extended our lead at the top to 11 points over Norwich, Arsenal, Blackburn and Villa. The middle of October saw the departure of winger Danny Wallace, who had struggled to keep his place. He left for Birmingham City for 400 grand. Into the League Cup, and the second leg against Stoke produced a narrow win, putting us through 3-2 on aggregate. That victory set up a comfortable third round tie against Leicester, which we won 5-1. We were then drawn to play Everton in the fourth round tie at the end of November. After dispatching Honved in the previous round, we were set up with a tie against relative Turkish unknowns Galatasaray. Penalised by the 3+2 rule, our understrength side seemed to cope very well with the visitors early on, racing into a 2-0 lead within a quarter of an hour. The Turkish club equalised after the half hour and even took the lead in the 63rd minute. However, Cantona equalised late on, but Galatasaray took away 3 valuable away goals, needing only to keep a clean sheet to go through. November began with a return match in Istanbul, and those never to be forgotten intimidation scenes of Turkish fans within and without the Ali Sami Stadium. King Eric's frustration boiled over, and he was sent off for clashing with a sponge man. Turkish police attacked him and Robson off camera after the match. Regardless, we couldn't score on the night and went out before the group stage. Our Premier League winning run came to an end after the 7th and 8th wins in early November. The victories, an epic derby triumph won late on at Main Road, with this Giggs pass being one of the best I've ever seen by anyone, and a comfortable 3-1 home victory over Wimbledon. Ipswich rode their luck as they earned a point in a goalless draw at Old Trafford. Cantona finished the month for United with a winning goal at Coventry, extending our lead at the top to a massive 14 points over Leeds and Arsenal. The first back-to-back title since the 1950s looked to be on the cards. Finally, back to the League Cup, and United won well at Goodison Park for the second time this season. The quarter-final tie at home to Portsmouth would have to wait for January. There were another 5 Premier League matches in December, and we still remained unbeaten. A dominating victory over Sheffield United at Bramall Lane was followed by a satisfactory point at St James's Park. We left it late against Villa at Old Trafford, with 2 goals coming in the dying minutes to provide a 3-1 win. Ince, a saver in that match, also came to the rescue at home against one of the main title chasers, if anyone could be called that at this stage, as he struck with 2 minutes to go against Blackburn at home. A 5-2 humbling of Oldham ended the year, as Fergie's men maintained a 14-point lead over second-place Rovers, albeit Shearer & Co had a game in hand. And a nice little stat, United earned 102 points and scored over 100 goals in 1993. It was a slow start with our Premier League fixtures in January. On New Year's Day we dropped 2 points at home to Leeds, and then another 2 in a titanic 3-3 battle at Anfield. To be fair, that result deserves more than just a cursory mention. It was an epic, going 3-0 up in just under 25 minutes, and then a late header grabbed the point for the Scousers. A brilliant game, massive shame about the result. The other 2 league fixtures in January were tight 1-0 wins against Spurs at 3 Points Lane and at home to Everton. The Everton game, however, was preceded by the sad news that befell the club on the 20th of January 1994. At the age of 84, we had lost Sir Matt Busby, who had made the modern club. He'd won everything and put us on the footballing map for all time. Respect to the Everton fans who were part of the crowd for that lone piper's lament. Their behaviour was exemplary. That win put us 13 points ahead of Blackburn Rovers at the end of the month, albeit our challengers had 2 games in hand. With the rest dropping off, if anyone was going to stop us, it was going to be Rovers. January also saw us start our FA Cup campaign, and we had a tricky away draw at Bramall Lane. We won 1-0 thanks to a sparky strike. In the 4th round at the end of the month, we had another away trip, this time to Norwich City. This was a bit more comfortable, as we ran out 2-0 winners. The League Cup restarted with a 5th round tie at home to Portsmouth. However, with all the football we had to play, it got to us, and Pompey managed to earn a replay, meaning a game at Fratton Park at the end of the month. We won that thanks to McClare setting up a 2-legged semi-final against Sheffield Wednesday. Just 2 league fixtures in February. The first was a narrow 3-2 win at QPR and a late show at Upton Park against West Ham as we claimed a draw and a point. Meanwhile, Blackburn had played 3 more matches than United in February, which cut our lead way down to 7 points. Rovers had won 10 out of 11 since the start of December, and only a 2-2 draw at Norwich, followed by a defeat at Highbury, stopped that drive, or the difference could have been even tighter. Meanwhile, we made massive strides in the FA Cup, beating the Dons 3-0 at their place with terrific goals and a rugged performance, showing our mettle as Vinnie Jones especially was allowed to get away with fouls that would never be allowed today. In the League Cup semi, the Owls weren't as big a pushover as we hoped, as we only won the first leg 1-0, so there's still plenty of work to do in the return in March. That return leg at Hillsborough was the first fixture of the new month, and it was a devastating assault from the boys on the home side. That meant a League Cup final against Aston Villa. There was now strong talk of a domestic treble. After going through over half the season, 22 matches unbeaten, finally we succumbed to Chelsea again, Gavin Peacock once more with the winning goal. Fuming, we took it out on Sheffield Wednesday, dispatching them 5-0 at Old Trafford before a double whammy saw us lose Cantona for several matches. What happened was that against relegation favourite Swindon Town, Eric stamped on John Moncur, who was on the floor, earning a straight red. Despite this, he was allowed in those days to play in the next match against Arsenal at Highbury. After a strong yet not particularly aggressive challenge, he was sent off again by an overzealous ref. This led to the Frenchman earning himself a 5-match ban. Regardless, we finished off the month in the league with a 1-0 win over the old enemy, which preserved a 6-point gap over Blackburn. Could we hold on till Eric finished his suspension? The FA Cup quarter-final against Charlton was another thrilling match, mainly as Schmeichel lost his head, which set the fuse for a pulsating second half. The Great Dane was dismissed for this professional foul handball. It meant that cult hero Les Sealey would be in goal for the League Cup final against Villa. The League Cup final itself was wedged between the high-intensity Arsenal and Liverpool matches in the league, and we just didn't turn up on the day. Villa were pretty much man for man the same side we beat to the league 10 and a bit months earlier, but they had our number that day as we went down 3-1. As a Red who started supporting the side in 1984, that was our first final defeat for me and a hard one to take. The domestic trouble was gone, but we're still favourites for the double. April began with a showdown between the top two, with Blackburn entertaining United at Ewood Park, a real 6-pointer that could cut the gap to just 3 points. Alan Shearer showed what we'd missed out on with a brace, and things started to look very United of old, the wilderness years of the 70s, 80s and early 90s, with the collective failures of the Doc, Big Ron and Fergie. Now we would have to show some character to take the league. In the next match we did, as the unfortunate Dion Dublin managed to score from the subs bench to inspire a tight 3-2 win over relegation-threatened Oldham. By the 16th of April and the away match against Wimbledon, Blackburn had played a game more but had levelled the title race on points, with United only being ahead on goal difference. Rovers had lost earlier on the same day, 3-1 at Southampton. Even with some pressure off, we couldn't take advantage. As John Fashanu won the game for the home side, it was an opportunity missed. Before the end of the month, United had 2 clashes against bitter rivals. First, we won the derby against City, thanks to a brace from King Eric. Then Kanchelskis and Giggs scored 2 second-half goals to claim all 3 points at Ellen Road. Meanwhile, Blackburn dropped 2 crucial points late on against QPR before claiming a win at West Ham. That meant United ended the month 2 points ahead with 3 matches remaining. Eric Cantona was deservedly proclaimed PFA Player of the Year in the same month. The semi-final draw against struggling Oldham looked like a gift. The tie, played at Wembley, was far from it though. Oldham dug in. We looked disjointed and Neil Poynton gave the Latics an extra time lead. This famous last-minute strike from Sparky cemented his legendary Old Trafford status and forced a draw and a replay at Main Road in mid-April. I was there on a school night with 32,310 others to witness Oldham's annihilation 4-1 along with Brian Robson's last goal for the club. We would be playing a Chelsea side who got the league double over us in that season's final. May Day, and we went to Portman Road and won 2-1 thanks to Cantona and Giggs. That put us within touching distance of taking back-to-back titles, and could happen if Blackburn failed to win the following day. And they obliged. A poor 2-1 defeat at Coventry confirmed ourselves as the best in the land. A 2-0 triumph against Southampton at Old Trafford put a cherry on top of the cake, as 4 wins from the last 5 matches since the Blackburn defeat gave us a final 8 points margin of victory, albeit it could have ended up so much differently. Spurs, Arsenal and Liverpool were the only clubs that had won the double in the 20th century, and the FA Cup final against Chelsea on a very wet May 14th would decide it, 37 years after the Busby Babes were cruelly deprived of theirs. The game itself was literally one of 2 halves. It's often forgotten because of the final score, but Chelsea were more than a match for us in the first period, with that man again, Gavin Peacock, hitting the bar, beating Schmeichel all ends up. However, this clumsy challenge on Dennis Irwin gave Cantona the chance to score from the spot, which he did with ease. 6 minutes later, we were lucky that David Ellery gave us this penalty. It wasn't as obvious as the foul on Irwin, but the penalty itself was a carbon copy from the King. A slip by Sinclair and Hughes finished for 3-0, and it was over for 20 minutes before McClair's coup de grace thanks to Ince's work. We'd won the elusive double for the first time, shown that the previous season wasn't a one-off, and now we could start looking towards Europe on a more regular basis, knowing that we could target multiple trophies in a season. And what a team! For those of us fortunate to live through it, remains one of the most beloved sides of any era, ever. So that was my season as a United fan 1993-94. What did that double winning campaign mean to you? Comment below and like, share and subscribe. Thank you as always for your support.